Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make vegan jajangmyeon. This is the Korean version of a dish that was originally Chinese called jajangmyeon. And that's what I grew up eating, but these days I really like to make the Korean version because it's super simple and I love the taste. So what jajang is basically a black bean sauce made with this key ingredient. This is called chunjang paste. It's made from fermented black soybeans. So yes, that's the primary ingredient for the sauce. And jajang sauce can actually be used for rice as well as noodles. Although the noodle version is a lot more popular, there's also a jajangmyeon, which is the same thing but with steamed rice. And the other ingredients that we'll need for this recipe are some shiitake mushrooms. Since this is gonna be a vegan recipe, we're using this to add some extra flavor. I've been soaking these mushrooms for about 2 hours now and they're nice and plump. So just squeeze out the water and we'll be slicing these later into smaller strips. But make sure to reserve the water because it has lots of good mushroom flavor and we'll be using that in the sauce later on. For the spices, other than the chunjang, it's pretty simple. Most of the flavor of the sauce comes from the chunjang, and aside from that, there's not really much seasoning going on. So that we have some black pepper, salt, sugar, and finally some cornstarch. This cornstarch will be used to thicken up the sauce later on. And finally, here are the ingredients that we'll be adding to the sauce. So we've got some yellow onions diced, 2 different kinds of tofu. You can use any kind of tofu here. Any kind of firm tofu will work. Just don't use like silken or soft because we want it to hold up in the sauce. But here I'm using fried tofu and a pumpkin seed tofu that I'm trying for the first time. I brought this back from Quebec City. Never seen this before in Calgary. Apparently it's made 100% from pumpkin seeds instead of soybeans. So I'm excited to see how it tastes in this recipe. And finally, some potatoes. So typically you can use a mix of daikon radish, zucchini, and potatoes, all chopped to about 1 inch or half an inch. But today I want to do just potatoes. Oh, almost forgot. Obviously you're gonna need noodles. Let me go grab that. These are the noodles that I found from the Korean store. These ones have pumpkin infused in them, although you can't taste the pumpkin at all. Basically you want this thickness or even slightly thinner, something like a linguine thickness. In some stores you might even see them labeled as jajangmyeon noodles, so if you see that, that's the perfect kind to get. You can also use dried pasta or like fresh refrigerated noodles if you want. And for today's recipe I'll be using this frozen one. Okay, let's get started with the cooking. Now that we've given our pan a few moments to heat up, let's add some oil. Swirl it around. And we'll go in with our onions. We'll saute the onions on their own for a few minutes, just until they get soft. Okay, so once you see your onions are like this, translucent and pretty soft, you can add the rest of your ingredients, so tofu and potato. Give that a mix and saute again for a few more minutes. While that is all sauteing in the skillet, you can take this time to chop your mushrooms. I've squeezed the water out of all of them and chopped each mushroom into about 3 to 4 pieces. And remember how I said to reserve the water? I usually soak the mushrooms in about 2/3 cup of water, and after I drain them, what I'm left with is about half a cup, which is gonna be perfect for making the sauce later on. So keep this ready. But once you've finished slicing your mushrooms, you can go ahead and add them to the pan. Once this has all been in the skillet for a few minutes, we're gonna add our chunjang. So what we're gonna do is make a little space in the center of your skillet. Add in a little bit more oil. And then spoon in the chunjang paste. And then just let that fry in the middle. As it heats up, it's gonna soften a bit and you can slowly start to mix it in with the other ingredients. So now everything is coated in this nice black sauce. You should really be smelling the chunjang at this point. And we're gonna do the final step, which is adding our cornstarch to our water. So just dump that in, mix it in really well. Make sure that you can't see any more white lumps, because once you start adding it to what's in the pot, like once it heats up, you're never gonna be able to get rid of those cornstarch lumps. So make sure it's dissolved really well in this water and just pour it in. Give everything a mix. Make sure to dislodge anything that's stuck to the bottom, just to make sure it doesn't burn. And then put on the lid. Now we're gonna let this simmer for just a few more minutes. Then we're gonna uncover the lid and basically keep cooking until it gets to the consistency that you want. Basically what the cornstarch did is to thicken it up. So as it cooks, it'll thicken more and more. Usually you don't want it too thick because you want some sauce to coat your noodles, right? And it also shouldn't be too runny because that's just not gonna be very satisfying. So just keep an eye on it and look for the texture that you want in the sauce. In the meantime, we're gonna cook our noodles. Now our water is boiling, so let's add in our noodles. When you're cooking frozen noodles, make sure to move it around a bit, otherwise the bottom might get stuck to the bottom of the pot. So just keep it moving. All right, noodles are cooked. Let's plate up. Now, if you're cooking the noodles beforehand, you'll want to drain them and toss them in some oil just to make sure they don't stick to each other, but I'm serving this pretty fresh, so I don't need to do that. So if you're feeling extra fancy, you can sprinkle some julienne cucumber or sesame seeds on top. But this is a late night meal for me, so I'm just gonna eat it like this. Let's give it a try. Delicious! Thank you guys for watching another video. I hope you like this one. Feel free to comment below if you have any suggestions for recipes that you want to see on this channel. Bye for now.